This is James Taylor, and you're listening to The Creative Life. The Creative Life podcast is a show created for you, the creative. If you're looking for inspiration, motivation, and advice while at home, at work, or on your daily commute, then this show is for you. Each episode brings you a successful creative, whether that's a musician, writer, artist, designer, performer, educator, or creative entrepreneur. They share their journey, their successes, their failures, their creative process, their insights, and much, much more. In this episode, I talk with Courtney Smith Kramer about why creativity is like sex, mistaking creativity with artistry, and the inner saboteur. Enjoy this episode. Hey, it's James Taylor. I'm delighted today to be joined by Courtney Smith Kramer. Courtney is the co-founder and executive creative director for PureMatter and is proud to be one of the 3% of female creative directors in the United States. An accomplished creative strategist, storyteller, writer, and designer, she has earned hundreds of creative awards and juror creative competitions across the country. Courtney has a wicked, dirty sense of humor and swears like a sailor, but has to be serious, mostly for her job. Her first book is called 21 Reasons Creativity is Like Sex and is out now. It's my great pleasure to have her on the show today. So welcome, Courtney.
Hi, James.
Hello there. So share with our listeners what's going on in your world just now.
Well, you know, like most people, especially creative people, we have about 1,000 plates spinning in the air. As we say, you know, it's all about the side hustle and what's happening over here. But in my serious job, which is, you know, owning a marketing agency, we're running the influencer program for Netflix DVD, which has been a total blast. I'm a huge lover of movies, so this has been super fun. And sort of on the side hustle side, my husband and business partner and I just launched a new business called Own Your Line, which is an online membership community to help small businesses and entrepreneurs become better marketers to grow their business. So we're super excited about that.
So I was mentioning you're only one of 3% of female creative directors in the United States. What's going on there? Why is it only 3%?
Isn't it awful?
It's insane. I mean, I was speaking at a legal conference just the other, like a couple of weeks ago, and I looked around the audience, and it was, you know, this was senior lawyers, and it's probably about 60% female in the room. And you think of the law as being a little bit outdated at times. So creative industry, why is it only 3%?
I mean, I think like a lot of, you know, traditionally male dominated industries, it's just a ceiling, and not that there's a crutch. I feel like there's a lot more opportunities out there for women, but I don't know what it is. The 3% number was actually discovered by this woman named Kat Gordon, and she was an advertising copywriter for many years and was frustrated that there was a lack of women, especially specifically in the advertising industry. And so she thought, you know what? Why not me? Why can't I be the one to change it? So she started the 3% conference, which is a conference that is completely focused on increasing diversity in the creative services industry.
So you're out there kind of as one of the kind of top creative directors, and I was about to say female, but actually top creative directors, regardless of gender. How did you get started in this industry?
Well, I've always had a love of commercials and jingles and all of that. So as far back as I can remember, I was designing advertisements in my bedroom, drawing out things, inventing products. And so I'm, I think, one of the few people that actually like ended up doing what I studied in college. I have an advertising degree and a graphic design minor. So, you know, being in the business for 5 years, small business, and then took the leap into owning my own design firm for 3 or 4 years after that. And then I met my husband and we decided to start our marketing agency, which we've had for 16 years in Silicon Valley.
Hey.
Woo!
That's a long time in Silicon Valley. That is a seriously old company now, a heritage company in Silicon Valley.
It's like, I feel like we've lived like 5 lifetimes in Silicon Valley years. It's like this crazy ride, which has caused us to, you know, continually reinvent ourselves, which, you know, can be exciting but exhausting.
So you think about like TV shows like Mad Men, they kind of hark back to an era when there was a small number of people who were labeled as creative, you know, while everyone else did kind of boring but pretty kind of worthwhile jobs. In your book, you argue that creativity, like sex, is for everyone. So talk to me about, you know, the idea behind how the book came about.
Yeah, so I have always believed that everyone is creative. I never believed this whole right brain, left brain thing. And I think that it manifests itself in different ways in different people. So people mistake creativity with artistry, and artistry is really the sister to creativity, which is just putting new pieces of information together in different ways. And, so I feel like as it relates to creativity is like sex, sex is just fun to talk about. Let's just be honest. Come on. But B, it's a great metaphor because, I think it really helps people lean into the topic a little bit. I haven't met anyone who's not interested in sex and it makes it really fun, I think, to talk about. And the dirty little secret, I think, of people that are sort of quote unquote deemed creative is they like to sort of maybe present it as I have a special gift that you don't. So therefore you need to let me, create this idea or have the voice in the room. And the truth is that's just not true. If you have a beating heart, you are creative in your own way.
And I saw one of the lines that you have in one of the parts of the book. You said, like sex, you were talking about why do we get our best creative moments in the shower? As well.
Yes.
So tell us, like, creative, everyone's kind of had that in the morning. You've kind of woken up, your brain's a little bit kind of fuzzy in the shower, and like this idea kind of comes to you as well. So what is going on there?
Well, I suggest everyone do it in the shower. And this is the idea that I call the double D's in the shower, actually. And there's a scientific reason, the double D's being distraction and dopamine, right? So when you're hearing the water and the sort of static white noise, it helps to sort of even out and clear your brain of any erroneous thoughts. And when you kind of get into that state, it's very meditative. And what that does is it releases dopamine, which is a chemical in your brain that acts almost like serotonin. And it's kind of like, that euphoric feeling that you get when you are reaching climax. It's just this great rush of sort of euphoria. And that combination between the distraction, that meditative state, and that chemical that's released in your brain actually allows the neurotransmitters in your brain to make new connections that it's not used to making, which you're normally doing when you're thinking about something logical, like a math problem, or you're doing something habitual, that you just sort of do in the background, but you don't really think about. So the shower is a great place to ideate because it has that sort of magical combination, plus the fact that it's warm and you're probably, don't want to get out. But it's a fantastic place to come up with new connections in your brain, which is always going to yield new ideas and new thinking.
Now, one of the things that I know a lot of my friends that work in either advertising industries or design firms, they have this issue that they're constantly having to create. They're this creation on demand, and for some that can cause get to a point of burnout as well. So, are there any parallels there in terms of creativity and sex when it comes to being in this for the kind of long haul instead of having just a quick and over and done? And then I would imagine maybe some companies go for some agencies simply because they look fun at that point, but maybe they're not going to be come up with the most fun over a longer period of time.
Yeah, well, that's a funny question.
And I love the fact as well. I'm saying this, and I know this is the morning in California. I'm here about 6 o'clock. I'm speaking to you today from the UK. So we're having this very interesting conversation and completely different time zones about sex, showers, and creativity.
I know.
Your brain is just working up.
I would love to have a drink while we're having this conversation, but no, I was laughing because when you said that, I had this vision of like, well, I suppose there are some prostitutes that are really, really good at their job. But over time, they probably get burned out because they're just having to do this all the time. And, so and certainly in my job, I have been made to feel a bit like a prostitute by some of my former clients, the not so nice ones. But yeah, I think when the creative piece of it is the totality of the experience, right? The ideation piece is just one part of it. How you get to those great ideas or interesting new connections can be taught, and it's a skill. but it's also a process and it requires a lot of structure around it. So I think when you learn what that structure and that process is, and you start to develop tools or use tools that other people are using, like empathy maps or mind mapping, it's I don't want to say easier, but it's more structured in your approach to be able to come up with some really interesting ideas, which makes it not so hard.
Yeah, it's a bit like sometimes you'll have like poetry, like Japanese poetry, which has very fixed structures to it. So you have to get really creative within those structures, but by having those structures actually allows you to go to places that you might not had if you just, you were completely free and, there wasn't anything.
Yeah, what I've actually found is harder than anything is truly listening to what the actual problem is that our clients need, right? Because oftentimes, when we're listening to what our clients are asking us to do or explaining what the challenge or situation is that they're dealing with, why they're hiring us in the first place, it's easy to start even ideating in your head right away. And that's a dangerous place to go because you get the best stuff when you actually listen to what your clients are saying. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a client new business or intake meeting for a project, and they've literally said exactly whatever their future tagline gets to be. But it's because they've gotten to that place where they've let down their guard, they've explained the problem, they've started to have a more conversational way of talking about it. And what that does is it starts to get closer to the emotion of the issue. And when you can get to the emotional part of the issue, that's when the good stuff happens. So it's just a matter of knowing what the right questions are to ask so you can get them to get to that place sooner. I guess it's like being on Oprah or something, right? You want to make them cry right away because that's really where the good stuff is. And if you're listening, you can just write down the most perfect phrase that they say, and then a couple weeks later, I suppose I'm giving away my dirty little secret here, but a couple weeks later when you come and you can present say here's some tagline options for you, then you can repeat back what they said and they think you're absolutely brilliant because you've absolutely nailed it, and you're thinking, well, you said it. Yeah,
but I mean that's almost like that's part of being, I suppose, a good marketer as well. You do have that, whether it's the market research or whatever. I mean, I think about when I work on ideas, whether it's for speeches or for posts and things, I'm always going into Amazon and I'm looking at the reviews and I'm looking for the things that people say, the reason that they bought the book, what are those emotional things for them, the reason that they wanted that book in the first place, and then what did the book give them? What was the sensation? What was the after effect as well? And I'm very often I'm using those same phrases. I'm pulling those phrases out and just kind of kind of pushing them back in another way. But you're kind of it's a loop really as well. And when someone talks to you in that way, especially from a marketing standpoint, there's instantly this, you feel like there's more empathy kind of going on. Oh, they get me. They understand what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly it. I think part of being empathetic towards someone is truly listening to what they're saying, listening in the total what is the word? Total sense. Totalitarian. I'm a wordsmith. I am a copywriter, people. But anyway, it's the whole experience of listening what they're having to say, which includes body language. It includes the words that are coming out of their mouth. It includes the context of the conversation, that you're in, and even the state of mind, that they're in. If they're coming in frazzled and they're slightly desperate and need an immediate solution versus they're just coming in and sort of anticipating, a challenge that's coming up in a little bit of a longer term, even changes how they feel about it.
You also have, as well as what you do around marketing, you also have a show about wine as well.
Yes.
So I'm interested because as someone that's lived in wine country, Napa Valley as well, big fan of wine and talking about wine. So is there a link between, I know friends of mine that do, whether they're musicians or artists or authors, entrepreneurs, a little bit of wine is kind of quite useful at times, especially at the ideation stage, or that stage where, after you've absorbed a huge amount of information, you just need to let things sift and settle for a little while. Yeah. So do you use wine in your own creative process, is what I'm saying?
Well, Define a little bit. I have a feeling it's different than.
Well, funny enough, I was speaking the other day in an event, and the very learned people there. So I thought, okay, I'm going to get in a little bit of Greek and Latin history in here as well, because these people know what they're talking about. So I actually looked back in terms of creativity about wine. And I actually found out that symposiums, like with Aristotle and Socrates and Plato, they would come up with these ideas. They would always have wine. And in fact, the word symposium literally means to drink together. They would get together at symposiums. But they were always quite clever. They always watered down their wine to 2 parts wine to 3 parts water. Because I think they must have figured out that a little bit of wine is pretty useful for the creative process, but too much, not it can go over.
Well, that certainly extends your symposium time, from maybe a few hours to, maybe a full day, which, I suppose they originated day drinking.
Yeah.
Yay them, go them. They're fantastic. But yeah, I am a massive lover in wine. I also live in the Bay Area, and I feel like, I don't know, like creativity and the wine culture is very much about sitting down, talking with friends, sharing ideas, and just being open to conversation. And I guess it's another way of making new connections. But I absolutely I only drink wine on days that end in Y. So sorry. But yeah, definitely. I think what's the saying? Write drunk and edit sober.
Yeah. Absolutely. I know another San Franciscan or adopted San Franciscan with Tim Ferriss, the writer, that I've met on a couple of occasions. And I know Tim is a big fan of, he writes late in the evening, he starts writing, but he always has a couple of glasses of wine, of Malbec or something. And that's his way. But I think he edits sober. He knows how to divide those two things that are going on there.
Well, and I think that's the perfect, way to explain the creative process, right? Which is when you're in the ideation stage, which is the free flowing of ideas and not trying to block out any idea or any thought that comes in, because you don't know what sort of meaningful connections you might be able to make, when you go back and actually put some structure around it. So, and I also think, like Tim, having an understanding about when you truly are your most creative. I know for me, it's from 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock p.m. Just for whatever reason, that's my witching hour. That 4-hour block is when I can get into the flow and let my eyes roll back in my head and just let words come out. But then I do have to come back and then spend another, couple hours, maybe in the morning, late morning, because, wine, and come back and just start to put some structure around my words and have it all make sense.
Yeah, I think that's why it's so hard when people say they think about creative rituals or daily rituals. It is so personal, isn't it? It's you speak to one person. Like for me, I'm very much I'm a kind of morning and then late at night. The 9 p.m. kind of onwards. That's my time. In the afternoon, pretty useless creatively. There's not much kind of going on. So I do all my calls, my other tasks in those times. But for you, it's like it's flipped around the other way. So it's like it's just kind of getting to know, isn't it, that time that works for you when you're your creative height, and then structuring your day. Obviously you've as a entrepreneur, you've been able to work and structure your day around that time.
Well, yeah, and I think that's an important point too. It's unfortunate that probably the large majority of people out there are constrained to sort of traditional industrial age work hours, which are not really conducive to entertaining your own personal creativity schedule. So
in the work that you've done, can you talk to us about a time where maybe you worked on a project, you've given it your heart and your soul, but for whatever reason it just kind of didn't work out like you'd hoped? And more importantly, what were the lessons that you took from that experience?
Well, yes, I can. And this is something that you're going to take me to that place that is my darkest, deepest spot.
Let's go deep.
So that's what she said. But There was a time, this was about 15 years ago or so. And I know since you used to live in Napa, you can kind of remember what it was like even in the early days of the .com, where there's all these tech startups and there's lots of people that are, trying to very quickly crank out a product. And of course, marketing is a necessary part of that. So we used to get pulled into all these startup companies who would want something very quickly. And I was sitting in this one meeting, and it was like one of those perfect storms where everything was set up to fail, where it was there was about 5 or 6 more people in the meeting who we were even anticipating, and I hadn't even met any of them. And this was our creative pitch presentation where they'd ask us to come up with a bunch of different ideas that didn't have a strategy layer over it or anything like that. Everything about this meeting went against who I am as a creative person, business person. And just thought, we'll slog forward because we really want to make this client happy. And it came time for me to pitch my ideas, which were written on paper, not even, sketched out or anything, which is another thing that went wrong. Me having to actually verbally describe these ideas to him. And I don't know what happened, but I completely had a panic attack in the meeting. I completely melted down in a room of 12 people all staring at me, not saying anything. And instead of helping me through this moment, the CEO started badgering me about okay, get on with it. I get it. Just go, just move on with it. And when I left that meeting, I wanted to die. It was the lowest point in my career because nothing like that had ever happened to me before, and nothing like that has ever happened since. But I can guarantee you that every single time I go into a meeting or go on stage or, right before a podcast, that little, thought in the back of your head comes and they're like, don't melt down. Don't melt down. And I was like, why? Why do we do that to ourselves? Yeah. We torture ourselves like that, But I've since learned the lessons that I've learned, of course, is, that first of all, if you feel like a meeting is not setting you up for success, then change it. That there are no rules that say that you have to follow how other people are guiding along a meeting. And it needs to be a safe space, especially for people that are coming up with creative ideas, because they are coming from our heart. I used to say when I would present ideas, it's like taking a butter knife, cutting my insides open, putting my intestines on the table and asking everyone to judge my health. It just is like that raw, when you're sharing your vulnerabilities with a strange group of people. And the other thing I learned of that since is, we all have that. It's called the saboteur, in our brains, which is that part of our subconscious that's meant to protect us, but it's doing it for the wrong reasons. It's that fight or flight reaction response in our brains, which is like, I can feel you're getting anxious. I need to shut you off from the rest of the world because I don't like how this feels. Yeah. And, over time, if you can get to the point where you can recognize that's starting to happen, then, I talk about this in my book. My saboteur is like this French guy, I call him Monsieur No. And the way that I, in my mind, get him to go away is I just kick him in the penis. And that shuts him up for a while.
But it's essentially like giving them a person. I've heard, I think it was Elizabeth Gilbert, the writer, talk about that as well. She said, whenever she's working a book, there's a little character comes up on her right shoulder that says something along the lines of like, really, your best work's behind you. You should probably stop writing now. What's the point? Is that voice. And she said she's got to know this voice so well now. She kind of turns to it and says, I realize you're looking out for my best interests, but I think I'm fine. I'm okay without you just now. I'm going to get on with this work. Let's see how we get on. And yep. She's just going to, you can play with it as well.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And every single person has, their own saboteur. So I suggest you name it and then you kill it.
Yeah. Yeah. Or at least tell it, go away and come back when it's more useful or something. Anyway,
right. So. It's like come back when I'm really in trouble, like if someone's chasing me with, down the street that I don't know.
Yeah.
That's when you can come.
And actually, knowing how time bound we are with our calendars all the time, you could all maybe even say, listen, just I'll book you in for 5 minutes on Thursday at 3 p.m. and then you can come in and you can criticize all you want for those 5 minutes, but until then, I've got other things I need to get on with.
Or just send it to go fold the clothes or something. Like do something I want to do.
Do something useful. So in this creative journey you've had, can you talk to us about maybe an insight or a light bulb moment in your life when you went, okay, this is the direction I want to be going with my work, or a new distinction you made?
Oh my God. Well, I always say, my biggest aha moment was when my husband was begging me to get a massage chair for the house. And I was like, ew, they're ugly. No, I don't want one. And then I thought, hey, wait a second. If there's a massage chair in the house, that means I can sit in it. Why didn't I think of that before? But obviously that doesn't pertain to creativity, of course. But
well, actually, maybe it does. Who knows?
Well, hey, a good massage definitely will get your brain thinking in new ways. That's for sure. But yeah, I don't know. I think there was also a moment sort of early in my career where this was in my very first design job. I was working for a small design firm in Michigan, and there was a medical company or something that hired us to do a print ad campaign. And my boss gave it to me as like one of my first assignments. And I was so excited. I was like, yes, my chance to be brilliant. I'm so excited. And their tagline was something super lame, like, I don't know, we give you peace of mind or something like that. And so as I was thinking through, I was like, peace, what can we do that's about putting together, just the patient care and everything. And I thought, ooh, I'll do a puzzle piece. That's a good idea. And so I like mocked it all up and showed my boss, and he green lighted it, and it got done. And I was so excited when this magazine came out and I could leaf through and actually see, the culmination of my life's work at the time in print. And I was so crushed when I was leafing through the magazine and realized that there was like every other page for every other medical company had an ad that had a puzzle piece in it. And I was like, oh no, I thought I was so clever. I thought I was so different. Like, why did this happen? And it was in that early moment that I thought, okay, I get it. You have to go past the first idea. You can't just stop at the first idea. You can say, okay, now that's out of the way. Let's look at new ways to connect this information that are really going to be a creative way to tell the story.
So you made that move as well from Michigan to California to Silicon Valley. Obviously, lots of benefits of that in terms of a creative place, lots of inputs, lots of interesting things happening, a lot of diversity kind of going on there as well. But I'm guessing also if it's the marketing side is anything like the tech side of things, there's also a lot of echo chambers and Me Too type products or marketing going on as well. How do you ensure that in a world of kind of plain vanilla ideas that your mint chocolate chip in there as well, and you can set yourself apart?
Well, I think it's that same process, having learned that early lesson. When I moved out here, certainly the clientele was much different from, being in a very small, well, I guess it's not a small town, but in mid-Michigan. And I think it was learning to develop that skill of deep listening and learning to take all of that information that we receive from our clients and then understand that there needs to be not only just that super out there, awesome creative idea that you want to sell through, but there also needs to be one that is somewhat safe and then maybe one that's somewhere in the middle. Because, in terms of selling your ideas, it's great to have fantastic, brilliant, pie in the sky, big ideas. But when it comes to actual execution in, a creative campaign, that's something different. So I think in learning that whole process in sort of the school of tech, and I had a few really great clients along the way. This fellow Brit, her name's Caroline Watterson. She's probably one of the best teachers that I had. She was my client for 7 years at a company called Courtney. That was an advanced analytics company that eventually got acquired by IBM. But just learning about the sophistication of demand gen marketing, it doesn't sound sexy, but it's really complex. And when you can understand all the moving pieces, you can really start to produce a winning formula for your clients that can really help them, like to the point where they have to hire new salespeople help them. So, that's the kind of, from a business standpoint, that's the kind of partner that clients want, who can both execute on the creative side, but also have a full understanding of the business side of what their goals are and know how to execute on it.
And what's some of the best advice that you've received then about living a creative life and doing great creative work?
Well, I don't know if it has anything to do with great creative work, but it certainly has helped me in my business. My dad always used to tell me, he said, when expectations are in alignment, there can be no conflict. And he pounded that into me, over the years. And it was so helpful as a business person, as someone who has to sell ideas to people, because it really helps you understand setting expectations is part of the job. And, not only in business, but also with your family and your friends, and making sure that everyone's on the same page and understanding about what do you expect to get out of this? Because here's what I expect to get out of it. And as long as they're in alignment with each other, then everyone can move forward in a much faster, more enjoyable way.
Mm. I hear that criticism coming from whether it's engineers or kind of scientists or more technical people. That expression they have at Stanford, the fuzzies and the techies. I hear that expression coming from the techies saying the fuzzies, i.e. often the marketing people and the sales people, they promise the world, they set the expectations in a completely different place, and then they never deliver, and it causes a lot of pain and a lot of conflict as well.
Yeah, well, I think our current president actually is explaining and living that concept right now. That's for sure.
And obviously you're in this world of tech and online. Do you have any online resources or tools or apps like Evernote, for example, that you find really useful for doing the creative work you do?
Yeah, I actually use Simple Note, which is very much like Evernote, but it's more simple, as the name describes. And then also I use an app called WordSwag, which is a really fun, like an instant meme creator, where we do a lot of, live amplification and, social media meme creation. And so it's super easy to do on the fly. It's just a mobile app where you can upload your own picture, or you can choose one of their backgrounds and make like a really cool social tile in about 30 seconds.
Absolutely. That's a great tool. If someone is as undesign savvy as me, even I can make something look decent as well. It's a great tool. It's a really great tool.
Yeah, agreed.
And we'll have it on the show notes here as well. But what about if you do recommend one book and one album to our listeners? What would they be?
So my book would be Orbiting the Giant Hairball by a man named Gordon Mackenzie. And it's such a great read. It's an older book. It's from about the mid-90s. And he was the executive creative director for Hallmark. And it was the first time I'd ever read a book. I think at the time I was probably in my mid-20s. And it was the first time I ever read a book that was written in plain language as a creative, having to navigate the world of business, especially like big business and enterprise business, where they all think that things have to operate a certain way. And he explained that no, they don't. You can be in charge. You can change things. You can make the outcomes different. But you have to approach things in a different way and force people to get out of their own heads. It was such a great lesson so early in my career. And then the album, I don't know that I listen to albums. I'm a Spotify addict. Mm-hmm.
Is there a particular playlist that you're a fan of just now, or
yeah, I listen to. There's a playlist called The Perfect Road Trip, which I love, and it's like just a great blend of like old kind of classic rock and a little bit of modern country and some of the more sort of mellow pop songs. But every time I listen to it, which is most of the time during the day in the background while I'm working, I truly do feel like you get that feeling, when you're sitting in the passenger side of a car and you're having a road trip cross country and you can hear the music on the radio and you just feel free. You just feel like you're going somewhere and you're on a path and you have a direction, but you're just like the windows down and you got your barefoot hanging out the window. I don't know.
See, this
is corny.
This is the cultural differences going on here, because I hear this as someone that's originally from Scotland, and the idea of being able to drive with a window down is completely bizarre. But having lived in California, I know exactly what you mean as well. You'd have had frostbite
Right?
if I'd have done that as a child. I would have had frostbite, I think. But
Seriously, I guess so. But you know what else is really good? When I'm writing, like a longer piece of work, like a book or a screenplay, I love listening on Spotify. There's multiple channels that have just movie scores on it, and it's so fun to write like something a little bit more theatrical to like a original score. Like you feel like your life is being scored as you're doing it, and it makes me like a slightly more, take the pen and make it loop up a little bit higher.
Yeah. How is it possible to write something that's not great if you're listening to an Ennio Morricone or something like that? So
Seriously. And it's just fun to play the game. Like, oh, I don't want to look at what movie is this from? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. As we start to finish up here, let's imagine you woke up tomorrow morning and had to start from scratch. So you have all the tools of your trade, all the knowledge that you've acquired over the years, but you know no one knows you. You have to restart. What would you do? How would you restart?
Well, I would get a bottle of wine. No. I honestly think that I would just figure out a way to contact Chelsea Handler, Amy Schumer, and Tina Fey and figure out how we could all work on something together.
Yeah.
Because I feel like strong women who have something to say through humor just need to stick together.
Wonderful. And then we've been talking about the book as well, a little bit about this, but for someone that wants to kind of pick up a copy of the book, where, I would say pick up a copy or download a copy of the book, where is the best place for them to go to get the 21 Reasons Creativity is Like Sex book?
It is available on Amazon. If you just search 21 Reasons Creativity is Like Sex or Courtney Smith Kramer on Amazon, it should come up, which is new, by the way, because Amazon blacklisted my book for 2 months.
Really?
For adult content.
Wow.
And so it took me 2 months working with the wonderful Ishmael in customer service, every day sending him a screenshot of another sex toy that is available on Amazon saying, how about this? How come you guys can sell this, but you can't sell my business book,
Wow.
So finally it's whitelisted. Thank God. But you can find it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. It's only available in print. That is by design. I feel like it needs to be picked up, caressed in your hand, and fondled page by page.
That just doesn't feel the same in a Kindle. So, yep, you're gonna need to get that book. Buy that book there as well. And what if people want to kind of connect with you, reach out to you, and find out maybe the other things that you've got going on just now?
I am on Twitter at CS Has Arrived. CS as in Courtney Smith. CS Has Arrived. I'm also on Facebook, public profile, LinkedIn, all under Courtney Smith Kramer. Or you can even email me, Courtney@PureMatter.com.
Wonderful. Well, Courtney, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. I hope we get to enjoy a glass of wine together at some point in your new home of California as well. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, James. This has been seriously my pleasure.
Hey, James Taylor here again. And if you're interested in living a more creative life, then I'd love to invite you to join me as I share some of the most successful strategies and techniques that high-performing creatives use. I put them all together in a free downloadable ebook that you can get by going to jamestaylor.me. That's jamestaylor.me to get your free downloadable ebook on creativity.